Thank you, friends. Thank you, friends, Dharma sisters, brothers. Thank you so much. What a special opportunity once again. We have the fortune to be together in this way, virtually or in person, to really contemplate and connect to the living Dharma, the nature of reality, the nature of ourselves. So kind of bringing that up actively, vividly in my own mind and in our minds, like this deep joy and appreciation. Always, this is like for me to get to kind of say something about Dharma, it's like almost is just kind of sometimes excruciatingly embarrassing. It's like I'm really nervous, just like it's such a big responsibility. And to just reflect on these vast and profound teachings of the Buddha and the Guru Rinpoche and all these masters. So we know like there will be good if we just kind of pause to reflect on what they said. Even if we just repeat the words of the Buddha, repeat the words of Guru Rinpoche, of these masters, these living lineage masters, then there's such great, immense benefit. So then we're kind of doing that, and then for me personally, it's like really humbling. And I think, how can I like be receptive to this? And then I really think of how Venerable Khenpo Rinpoche always points us to this. And so did Venerable Kenshin Palden Sherpa Rinpoche. And all these lineage masters, these three qualities that we should actively kind of ignite in our own minds whenever we're going to study or practice the Dharma. These three qualities we've heard so many times: renunciation, bodhicitta, and pure perception, especially in the context of coming together to practice and contemplate the Ngondro, or the foundational teachings, in this Vajrayana view, and these teachings taught by the Buddha and Guru Rinpoche. So always we should have these three frameworks as a living experiences in our mind as much as we can, if not just during this brief window. We'll try to really reignite them, vividly have them kind of saturate our mind stream, like come to life as a living presence, this renunciation, bodhicitta, and pure perception. So renunciation can be joy and appreciation, this deep gratitude for the Dharma, for the causes for happiness, the happiness to remove the causes of suffering, this deep joy and appreciation that we have this path that was taught to us. We have all these things in our favor to actually take steps on this path and get the freedom, the fruit of this path. Become free forever for the benefit of all beings. Then bodhicitta, all beings are kind of in this same boat, all sentient beings. We don't want to hurt. We don't want to have pain. We don't want to suffer. Just like me, I don't want to suffer. All beings, we have this same situation. So what can I do to help? Even if it's just a little bit, what can I do to not hurt someone, to help them? So really reactivate this bodhicitta, this big, vast commitment, kind of activating the illusory, kind of absolute nature of experience, of appearance in our minds, and also with that, like to really kind of connect to the detailed, the living embodiment and relationality of beings. Like, what can I do right now, in this context, in this situation that I'm in? What can I do to better serve beings, to help them connect to their own nature, to help my own nature to more brightly shine out? So really bring this bodhicitta to mind as a living experience right now. And pure perception, begin by seeing the goodness in oneself, seeing the goodness in others. Kind of this big open view that's kind of doesn't hold so strongly onto forms and sounds and kind of movements of mind, emotions and thoughts. Kind of a much more kind of open, like in a way playful, kind of a light touch kind of experience of what's happening right now. To connect to this goodness, this kind of sizzling quality of this bodhicitta in my heart and other beings' hearts. To like kind of really see this nature first and have this nature kind of like fill our vision and illuminate, to bring to light, kind of this, have this glowing nature of bodhicitta really kind of be part of our living experience, that this is actually kind of the mandala or the world that we're in now, as this beautiful Buddha nature shining in all directions, outside, inside, up, down, all the 10 directions, everywhere. So try to to become receptive vessels for the Dharma, and just that means actually to become a living presence of Dharma. We activate this together, renunciation, bodhicitta, pure perception, just for a moment. Thank you. So kind of the topic for today, which is just we have a little short time to reflect on the Dharma together, then we'll go into the complete Dudjom Tersar Ngondro practice. The kind of topic today is more of like an inquiry. This is like kind of really open question for myself, and just for you too if you want. And the question is, where do I want to go deep? Where do I want to go deep? So that's kind of the question, this little opening of space we get to be in together. There's so many things we can explore in life. And the time is just passing. Really, yesterday's gone. Earlier today's gone. Things really more and more quickly seem like they're just becoming these memories. And yet we have this whole vast world outside and inside that we can explore. There's so many amazing things that we can put our time and energy into. And there's also so much just kind of distraction. So that's a real question, especially for Buddhist practitioner. Like, where do I want to go deep? And this is it's a real question in the sense of we have to answer this for ourselves. And we have to keep asking ourselves this question and keep answering this question. And we do that every single moment, whether we're aware of it or not. Because we keep choosing what we're doing with our mind. We keep placing our mind somewhere. We keep filling our days with activities. We're choosing where we want to go deep every day. Whatever habits we cultivate, that's where we're going deep. This is the habit we're growing. So it's kind of in one way, it's an unavoidable question. What do I want to focus on? What do I want to get really good at? What do I want to fill my time with? Where do I want to place my energy? What am I going to spend my wealth on? Where am I going to have my Buddha nature really kind of like be present with? Because every moment we're really answering that question for ourselves by what we do with our mind and what we do with our speech and what we do with our bodies. And I say that as a real question for myself. What am I cultivating? Like, what am I opening into? What am I closing away from? What am I exploring? What am I growing? And so this is just a kind of big opening question because now it's information age, and it's always been, there's always been so many things we can explore. And to get really good at something and to really go deep, to get some real nuance and flexibility with something, to really grow a skill, to really deepen a relationship, to deepen trust, to really kind of enrich connection. All these things take time. We keep having to choose them. To really get good at Dharma, to really have our going for refuge, to really have that become stable, to really have Bodhichitta be on more of the time, to really see everything as an offering we're making to the three jewels, to really actively take on experience as a purification, to really keep connecting to the living lineage blessings of the enlightened beings here and everywhere, to keep dedicating the merit so that I can be more effective, so that my bodhicitta can be more bright, more stable. All these take time. This is just the Ngondro. And these are just qualities of being a bodhisattva on the path. These are all choices we have to keep making. And no one can make them for us. No one can make our mind do anything. We have to keep putting our attention where we want to actually grow and go deep. This is really up to each of us. So as Buddhists, this is kind of a big opportunity Because really, for like really healthy Buddhists, and according, like following the teachings of the Buddha, this is 100% in our power and our control. What am I doing with my mind right now? This is 100% up to me. How is my heart now? This is 100% up to me. So Buddhism has responsibility right at the beating center of the whole path of Buddhism. No matter what's happening outside, good things and bad things, gain and loss, praise and blame, all these things, it still comes down to my decision of what am I going to do in response? What am I doing with this moment now? Because we can't get good at everything. We can't learn everything. There's always going to be more to know. There's always going to be more to do. It really, literally is endless. So that question of where am I going to go deep? It's a very real question. It's definitely active for me. Because when I choose to go somewhere deep, that's actually pretty shallow. It doesn't make me feel really good. It doesn't really help much. Then that taste in my mouth, it's not very pleasant. But then I'm overcome with all these bad habits. Laziness, distraction, complaining, why me, I want vacation. All these, basically trying to avoid actually dealing with the present moment. There's so many ways to avoid that. And just say, put the blame somewhere else. If only something was changed. Then I would really, I would really practice. Then my path would really open up. But this is really not the way a Buddhism should be. Because it's samsara. It's never going to be perfect. There's always going to be something wrong. The pervasive quality of conditioned existence, of conditioned grasping mind, duality mind, is suffering, dissatisfaction. This is always going to be a part of duality mind. This is never going to be all right when we stay in the realm of duality mind. It's just not. That's kind of a fact. So in terms of this topic, kind of the interesting way this is open for me, just today, this is kind of thinking, I really want to look at His Holiness Dudjom Rinpoche. He has a big commentary on the Dudjom Tersar Ngondro, Torch Lighting the Way to Freedom. Complete instructions on the preliminary practices. So this is the gold. This is really invaluable. This commentary by His Holiness is so precious. And then I really thought, with this question, because it was more actively in my mind, where do I want to go deep? Because time is going, and whether I really develop a capacity or not, it's really the opportunity is shrinking each day. I have to choose, I have to consciously make this choice, what I'm going to put my time and energy to. Because the opportunity is escaping every day. Impermanence, right? So I thought in this book, I should really look at this book. So I turned on the back, and there's a beautiful quote on the back. And I read it, and I was like, this is so beautiful. So at the very least, could read a quote of His Holiness Dudjom Rinpoche, and this will be a big benefit, no matter what else I say right now. And then we'll practice the Ngondro together. That's really of big benefit. So that makes this time together meaningful. Even if nothing else is meaningful during this time, then to have heard the words, the Vajra speech of someone like His Holiness Dudjom Rinpoche is exquisitely important. It's so special. So this is just from the back of this book. Okay, so it's all in the context of where do I want to go deep? So His Holiness Dudjom Rinpoche says, unless we have faith, however many other good qualities we might have, they will not be of much use to us, as though we were very beautiful but blind. So we have to make an effort to develop faith by meditating on impermanence 4 times a day, by reflecting minutely on actions and their effects, by reflecting on the positive aspects of everything, by reflecting on how rare the Dharma is, by thinking of our teacher's kindness, by thinking of our spiritual brothers and sisters with pure perception, and by thinking of the excellent qualities of the Buddha. It is important to consider that other people are, all of them, marvelous, and to be free of partiality and notions of high or low status, thus making a habit of faith and taming your own mind. So in terms of this question, where do I want to go deep? As a Buddhist, this is really just such a treasure. It's really saying not only where I could go deep, but how I could go deep, how to get there. So then I read this quote, and then I was looking a little more in this book. I was like, really, where can I go into this question? And so then I randomly flipped through the book this morning, and I'm randomly flipping, and I just opened the book, and I opened to this same quote. This is truly random in the sense of trying to do this, okay? Cause and condition random, huh? So page 154, I'm going to read the same quote because this is literally of this whole big book, 350 or so page book, then I opened and it's the same quote. So I want to read this quote again because at least for me, then I need this quote. This is really kind of something that I need to put more time into to go deep with, okay? So here's the same exact quote. Unless we have faith, however many other good qualities we might have, they will not be of much use to us, as though we were very beautiful but blind. So we have to make an effort to develop faith by meditating on impermanence 4 times a day, by reflecting minutely on actions and their effects, by reflecting on the positive aspects of everything, by reflecting on how rare the Dharma is, by thinking of our teacher's kindness, by thinking of our spiritual brothers and sisters with pure perception, and by thinking of the excellent qualities of the Buddha. It is important to consider that other people are, all of them, marvelous, and to be free of partiality and notions of high or low status, thus making a habit of faith and taming your own mind. Then it goes on to say, the omniscient Dharma Lord said, this is Longchenpa, unless you do all you can to develop faith, you will never attain perfection, but will wander constantly in cyclic existence. Therefore, whomever you are following, make every effort to cultivate faith. So for me, part of the answer to this question of where do I want to go deep, it really has to involve faith. So we can open this a little more together. But on this next page in the same book, page 155, there's a section, the next section, the causes and conditions that make faith grow or decrease. And so here I'll read this, causes that make faith grow. This is again His Holiness Dudjom Rinpoche. How can we increase our faith and devotion? By sincerely following a sublime being, a qualified teacher. By relying on special companions who have blended their minds with the teachings. By studying the profound sutras and tantras. By reflecting undistractedly on death. By reading or listening to stories that illustrate the law of cause and effect. And by doing longer sessions than before of meditation and practice on the profound teachings. So these are a few of the conditions that will make faith grow. And then I'll go back to page 153, the same section on faith, on categories of faith. The essence of faith, this is again His Holiness Dudjom Rinpoche, Jigdral, Yeshe, Dorje, his words. The essence of faith is a clear, untroubled mind, aware of what should be adopted and what should be avoided. So again, the essence of faith is a clear, untroubled mind, aware of what should be adopted and what should be avoided. And for this, there are three categories of faith: vivid faith, eager faith, and confident faith. Vivid faith. This is the clear, fresh state brought about by the feeling of joy and devotion, untainted by guile, that results from seeing or hearing of the wondrous qualities of sublime beings. It is like the water-purifying gem that renders turbid water limpid, and it clears away all negative thoughts. Then eager faith. With this kind of faith, one yearns to be rid of the suffering of cyclic existence. One yearns to attain liberation and enlightenment. And to those two ends, one is eager to give up what is wrong and adopt what is right. Eager faith induces us to devote ourselves to the sublime Dharma in much the same way that desire for wealth is what makes people pursue riches. Then thirdly, confident faith. Confident faith implies confidence that cyclic existence and its causes are to be eliminated. Confidence that nirvana and its causes are to be adopted. And confidence that indeterminate states are pointless. Just as confidence in a future harvest induces a farmer to till the soil, confidence that the sublime Dharma will never fail us gives us the necessary conviction to practice without doubting and hesitating. So I'll read the final line again. Confidence that the sublime Dharma will never fail us gives us the necessary conviction to practice without doubting and hesitating. So where do I want to go deep? For me, really, if I could get to the point where I had confidence that the sublime Dharma would never fail me, which would lead to the necessary conviction to practice without doubting and hesitating, then I want to go deep there. That the Dharma is unfailing. That kind of vivid, eager, confident faith. The Dharma is unfailing. Can clearly, in my mind, clearly know what to adopt, clearly know what to avoid, and to eagerly choose what to adopt. Happiness and the causes of happiness, or here, nirvana and the causes of attaining nirvana, and eliminating suffering and the causes of suffering. So eliminating being trapped in endless samsara by actually removing, doing the work, like really the work of not planting more seeds of suffering. Really choosing that. And so for Buddhists, this is really, it comes down to, it is a question of faith, but defined in this way. This is very clearly not a blind faith. It's a very clear definition of faith. And for Buddhists, this is kind of what we need to have. Where do I want to go deep? We really do need this faith. And then how do we get this faith? This is so clear. To really look at suffering. To really investigate what is the cause of this suffering. Is it possible to stop this suffering? If it's possible to actually pursue the path, the treatment, to actually grow, to deepen what stops suffering. This is very scientific. So I don't know, this is an open inquiry. There's not some big final point I'm trying to get to here. Time is really running out. We have such a good support right now. This body, the living Dharma, is living teachers. We can do anything we want to do with our mind. We can choose to grow and deepen whatever we want to grow and deepen. And we know how to. Even just what we're reading here today, that's enough to know. That's a full path. Just in these few little quotes, kind of randomly pulled out of this big book, this treasure trove of teachings, this is all that we need. So how much time do I want to waste dabbling in this and that? That's a really personal question. Because if I'm drowning in samsara, I can wish upon a star to save all beings, but I can't really help much. And I should aspire to save all beings. I should aspire until every single being is free from suffering, that I will remain to do whatever it takes to protect them, to care for them, to love them, to nourish them, to defend them, in whatever way is actually helpful. Like to have that level of bodhisattva vision. That it has to actually be helpful, which means I really have to tune into what is helpful. And that's very context dependent. I really have to show up and tune into the situation. Not the way I want it to be, but the way it is. What's going on with someone else, what's actually available in the situation. I really have to develop these abilities to be able to do that. It takes a lot of deepening in that process. But really to have that be, kind of deep enough to really have that dream come true, for all beings to be free of suffering. I definitely have to get more free myself. There's no question. And we know this path. We know how. And that's really why Ngondro, the foundational practices, this is, in one way, it's like a lot of different ways to list the 4 common Ngondros, how to turn the mind towards the Dharma, how to turn the mind away from samsara, preciousness of human embodiment, impermanence, causes and conditions and effects, the suffering of conditioned mind or cyclic existence. We really this has to be permeating our being, our mind state, all the time. That's the path. And this is the foundation of every Ngondro session, of every kind of, as a Dharma person, from the ground up, from Theravada into Sutra Mahayana, into Tantra Mahayana, into Dzogchen and these higher level teachings. They all have this bedrock, the 4 thoughts that turn the mind towards the Dharma. And if we really turn our mind towards the Dharma, this is kind of the definition of faith. Once we really turn our mind towards the Dharma, these 4 points, that is faith. Because we're just clearly seeing how reality functions, how cause and effect functions, what leads to happiness, what leads to suffering, the precious opportunity we have to actually take steps on this path to freedom. So that's kind of it. There's a million ways that the world is on fire. Degenerate age, and it's just some suffering, cyclic existence. It's always going to be breaking. It's just how it is. And I say that with a tenderness of heart. I'm so sad that is always how it's going to be. But if I just constantly am thinking about, what's wrong, what's broken, this is broken, that's bad, this big thing, how to do this, and I don't actually put in the time and energy to deepen my own experience of bodhicitta, my own experience of freedom, by actually planting the seeds for the causes of happiness and removing the distortions, the distractions that cause suffering, then I'm just kind of fooling myself. I'm really wasting time. It's just like an entertainment. Doom scrolling, Oh, it's like seeing more ways that samsara is suffering. Oh, it's still suffering today. Samsara is still suffering, but not actually doing anything about it. Just kind of like, it's like, oh, suffering still, more suffering. See this, honey? There's more suffering today. Who wants to hear the list of suffering? Not if you're really not going to do anything about the second noble truth, third noble truth, fourth noble truth. What are the causes of suffering? Can they be removed? And removing them. Just listing suffering, what does it really do to help anything? So in our own abilities to actually really clearly see with discernment and with curiosity and with compassion and love and tenderness and really open-mindedness how this suffering is working, and then personally, with my own mind, what I'm choosing to engage in with my awareness right now. To connect to this bodhicitta, so like we said in the beginning, renunciation, bodhicitta, pure perception. These are three ways that no matter what we're experiencing, no matter what's happening around us, these will hold us on the path. They'll brighten our faith. They'll help us keep going deeper into something that's endlessly deep, the Dharma. They'll help us grow the conviction that the Dharma really is unfailing, because it's just talking about how cause and effect works. And then we have a bigger span of what we talk about when we mean cause and effect. Bigger and bigger, wider and wider. So this is just about becoming more and more inclusive. Having more of the nature be on our radar. Being more tuned into more interdependence. That's what the path of Dharma leads to. And that's where freedom is. To be completely, perfectly in tune with interdependence. That's called freedom or enlightenment. So I pray for myself, really, where do I want to go deep? I really want that. I want to go deep to have this unfailing conviction that Dharma will never fail. And then to take that resolve and to put this time, this moment of mine again and again and again, to line it up with Dharma, to turn my mind towards Dharma, to open my heart towards Dharma, to put time on the cushion, to have that goodness be present in my mind, in my interactions, in my relationships. To really keep with really enthusiastic joy, keep turning my mind towards the Dharma until it really saturates my being all the time. That's really a prayer I have for myself, for all beings. We can really be free in that way by tuning into interdependence, by tuning into our own goodness nature, by seeing that in others, and by really actively doing that again and again. That's called the path. So that's kind of a little bit of an inquiry into where to go deep. And that's just, there's all these different ways to answer that and we each have full responsibility and power to answer that for ourselves. And we keep answering it every single moment with what we do with our mind and our speech and our body. So that's kind of a brief little reflection. And then we'll go into this Dudjom Tersar Ngondro practice.